Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, where along with my partner in politics, veteran White House correspondent, and Time and Newsweek alum Matthew Cooper, we slice and dice all things politics, and some days our lawmakers too. On this week's episode of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, Black Lives Matter. They really, really do. America took a collective sigh of relief when justice was served and former cop Derek Chauvin was found guilty of the murder of George Floyd on all counts. The culmination of a trying week in America as we all impatiently waited for the verdict. But that's not all. Fox News host Tucker Carlson and Greg Gutfeld are on our radar this week. So is Matt Gaetz and COVID-19. And as always, Florida sneaks into our conversation. Is Senator Marco Rubio vulnerable to a challenge by Florida Democratic Rep. Val Demings? And what's the backstory of the relationship between President Joe Biden and Russia's President Vladimir Putin? Putin's buildup of troops on Ukraine's border is more than a little worrisome. Hang on to your hats. There's a lot to get to. It's Halli and Matt time. Here we go. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning.
I always come on sounding like I'm crazier than I'm really feeling, but I am feeling a little bit disoriented today, I have to say. I got a lot going on, there's a lot in the news, and it's all weird stuff, but yesterday shook me up. I've got 3 words for you. Guilty, guilty, guilty.
Yeah.
Rogue cop Derek Chauvin had the book thrown at him yesterday when he was found guilty on all 3 charges for his killing of George Floyd. A cop found guilty. That's where we're going to start. I'll let you tell me your thoughts first.
Well, look, I mean, I think I'm not a lawyer. The evidence seemed pretty clear. The defense didn't really have much of a case. When you've got the whole police wrong medical examiner saying this is what caused the death, you got video, you got witnesses who are very credible, you got the relatives of the deceased. It was a very powerful argument. And, 9 minutes, while he's handcuffed. It's not like you threat. It's a split-second decision about it. It was a gun being used, right? I mean, this guy is on the ground, handcuffed.
No, I mean, this guy, and there are people watching, and it's like...
And there are people watching, and they're all saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? And so, the evidence, I'm not surprised there was a conviction. I did not think this was a case where he was going to get acquitted. There just wasn't, it was just so incontrovertible. A lot of these other cases... Not all of them, but in other ones, I think juries have been reluctant to, throw a cop in jail for decades for a split-second decision made, heat of an arrest or whatnot. But this wasn't that, and so he got convicted. I think any sentient being thinks he got a fair trial, except for maybe Tucker Carlson.
We're going to talk about him in a minute because that's really a story too.
I think that's good. I don't know if it's a teachable moment, a healing at all, but it's at least it's not another violent one, so that's good.
First of all, if you want to see the face of evil, there it is. When he looked up at that camera, he turned around with his handcuffs behind his back when he's walking out. He looked, in the beginning, he looked like a deer in the headlights, like, well, what just happened? But once they had the cuffs on him, they were walking him out. My thought, first of all, was the animal is going to the cage. But he had such a look on that face of, I don't know, some people had obviously read it differently than maybe I did, but it's evil. Sure, you can't stand there or with your knee on somebody who's screaming and crying at you, I can't breathe, for 9 minutes and 29 seconds and be human. You can't. So, just on that score, they didn't even have to prosecute a case because that was enough in my book. There was no reason for that, just there. But the reaction was so interesting all across the board. First of all, I have a friend who lives in Minneapolis, very well-to-do, upscale kind of lady. But right before this thing was coming down, she was reporting to me what was going on in Minneapolis, and schools were like emptying at mass speed. Get these kids home if they were in schools or if they were at jobs. And she said the streets were cars just speeding because they didn't know what was there. There really is a black-white division in that city, and the whites are just terrified of the blacks. That's all that I was getting from my friend, in the way that she was reporting what was going on. But I watch CNN more than I watch MSNBC these days, but I happen to have MSNBC on when I was watching it. And one of the reactions was by, Jason Johnson, who was,
Yeah.
Did you see that? That was the first person they threw to, when the conviction came down. And I gotta tell you, I got all shook up by that. He said, I actually thought that that he would be found guilty because I don't have any sense, let me go back to my notes. I actually always thought he would be found guilty because it's sort of a cultural makeup call. I'm not happy, though. I'm not pleased. I don't have any sense of satisfaction. I don't think this is the system working. I don't think this is a good thing. My body, my soul jumped out of my body when he said that. And I have to tell you, Nicole and Brian Williams, they never went back to him. They got away so fast. But that was very telling too, wasn't it? As to the difference between how people responded.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think there's there were variations. The system worked. It was a bad cop, and the system worked, and let's have faith in our system. That was kind of most of Fox. Then there was kind of the whatever the verdict was, and the country is so bad, we have to keep our, we can't stop trying to fix that. That was kind of another common sense. There was the Jason Jones sentiment that you said, and then there was the Tucker Carlson, which was...
talk about that. That was... What's wrong there?
Well, it was basically... he didn't quite say Chauvin, but he definitely said Chauvin didn't get a fair trial. The jury and everybody was intimidated by the threat of violence, so it couldn't have been a fair trial. And then he kept citing all the, all the argument the defense put forth, sort of implying that, strongly suggesting he thought Chauvin quite said that. And it was just, bizarre.
And Greg Gutfeld. And Greg Gutfeld. And Greg Gutfeld.
Oh, Gutfeld, yes. He had Gutfeld at Fox, because he had Gutfeld fighting Pirro, and Gutfeld fighting African-American former law enforcement officers, were contributors. I mean, the law enforcement guy said that Gutfeld must be on meds, and then Gutfeld started singing.
And Jeannie Pirro actually was interesting because she is as a former judge. I have to give her. She said the guy was guilty. I mean, but look, Matt. When we talk about this, it's humorous in a way because it's so off the wall, crazy. Right. These after five people behave, but there's the other side to it, which is, as long as those characters have that kind of a voice, through who I think is one of the most dangerous people walking the face of the earth, and that's the owner of Fox News, I don't know how we get past where we are. And this encapsulated everything that's wrong, because, television, cable media is just not being policed the way we used to police CBS, NBC, and ABC back in the day, kind of thing. That Tucker Carlson's off the friggin' wall. I mean, he makes Limbaugh look like he was sane. Yeah, I mean, he had this former New York City corrections official and sheriff's officer on, who, is like old kind of Irish guy, and I'm sure Tucker thought he did Saul. This was pure savagery. It's awful. E-training. He waved a white paper from the Clinton Justice Department about breathing problems in the prone position, and Tucker was at first just crestfallen. Then he got off. And a very weird cutoff, by the way. If you can find that footage, watch it. Maniacal laughs. Yeah, it was just... it was a weird 3 minutes. Tucker was always, a conservative, but he wasn't a nut. He wasn't even a nut when he first went to Fox, by the way. I mean, so I don't know whether this... he's been on a journey to crazy town. I mean... he was at MSNBC, CNN. I mean, had a lot of TV. It's just, I wonder this. I'm trying to decide whether it's what he believes or it's... Yeah, I wonder that a lot, a bit. I mean, he likes being contrarian. He likes being bad boy, and I think there's an element... Well, he's a frat boy. He's a frat boy. Yeah, there's an element of sort of, that's what the kind of frat sensibility. And but that only, I think, gets you part of the way. Now I don't know. I don't know what he believes. He has an interesting upbringing, didn't he? He's an adopted kid, and he was raised in a very, very well-to-do family. With the best schools, the best this, the best that, the best the other. Yeah.
Father's a nice guy.
The father?
And, yeah, I mean, the father was a journalist, Nixon VOA, and then helped found King World.
Did he? I didn't know that. Yeah.
All this. So, he's had a lot of money, but it was mostly California. He grew up in, it's not like he was their ex.
And look, the Murdochs are sticking with him, no matter what the kind of argument that they get thrown back at them. But I at this point, if it was just Fox, that's one thing. This is Fox News. And so at what point do they cross the line? And I think they're there. I frankly think he is there. I mean, Hannity is just kind of buffoonish. I don't think Hannity is as dangerous as Carlson is. It's a different kind of crazy.
No, he's not. I mean, really.
You read my mind. I wasn't going to say it. How do you like that? I was I was editing myself.
It's just whatever the talking points are.
Yeah. And kissing up to this has got to be. I have to move on. Here's the deal. Yeah. So he's sitting in jail and he's on suicide watch. I understand, and that's where he'll sit until they do the the sentencing. What, in 2 or 3 weeks or something? The sentencing is going to be weird on this too, because if you take all 3 charges, he's actually could get 40 years. They never do, because there were these crazy sentencing guidelines that they put into place in the last 25 years or so. And so now they're talking about less than 12, although they say that they think that the prosecution's going to say these are extenuating circumstances. You got to throw the book at him. The thought of him getting out of prison, if I were him, I wouldn't want to get out of prison because he's a target. But 12 years doesn't seem enough.
I don't think it's, I don't think.
You think it's going to be more?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just going with, the shows ever, but it'll be.
I can't be sure on that.
Who knows? But it's going to be interesting to see, what happens there. And whether he'll have to be in solitary confinement too, because, prison's not a good place for a white cop to be who killed a man. The other thing is, while this was going on yesterday, now they're censuring Maxine Waters. We do have to address that.
Oh, yeah, right. That vote failed, but not so good.
Was she out of line or was she in line?
Was she out of line?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they should. All the politicians. when a jury,
a politician?
Yeah, when jury's going to deliver. Yeah, sure. I think it was untoward. I don't think calling for death.
No.
And I think she protested for violence. But, she's got a not good history on these things going back to the Los Angeles riots. And look, I don't think I this moment.
Listen, I didn't have a problem with President Biden speaking about it because it had gone to the jury. At that point, they couldn't hear anything he had to say, and he was going to speak later in the evening anyway, and maybe it was a calming voice for people. But I never know, with the Maxine Waters or, any of these, getting vociferous, it isn't always helpful either. They ought to be thinking of that. But also while this was going on, an Ohio cop shot and killed a teenage girl, shouting, "Blue lives matter, blue lives matter, blue lives matter." I do want to talk about that briefly. The story, of course, has changed in 24 hours because initially it was like this poor little teenage girl. And now it looks like she was the aggressor and she had a knife on her. But here's my question. Tasers are a conversation to be had. If there is such an implement as a taser, Matt, and it can down a person without murdering them, why have guns? Why not always use a taser?
I am not the right person. I assume they have their limits to what they can subdue some. In
the old days, they had billy clubs. I bring it up only because, within all this gun crazy that we have in this country, I don't know, can't they come up with an implement that doesn't kill but restrains? And the taser, I know, can cause brain damage and stuff like that. But they do have them, and I think that's a conversation this country ought to be having. Alternatives to gun. If you can't, guns are bad, let's find an alternative. That's all.
Right. Well, Yeah, I hear.
Yeah, you hear what I'm saying? I mean, it's just a conversation we just have never had, and maybe it's one to have. I'm always looking for an alternatives. If you're stuck on A, let's try plan B. We move on to COVID.
To COVID.
You remember COVID? Do you remember COVID?
Oh, I remember.
So, Matt, it's up everywhere. We're here in Florida. We're up to about 6,000 cases a day. Some days we have more. Some days, I don't think ever less. And people are back in hospital and what have you. And all over the country, there are problems having this. Vaccinating program is going extremely well, better in blue states than in most red. The Johnson & Johnson controversies, it's back on the market to be used. Didn't seem to have a whole lot of influence on people getting vaccinated or not. Ted Nugent, right-wing wacko.
He has COVID? What?
Not only does he have COVID, he announced on Facebook Live yesterday that he hadn't been feeling well. And he was tested, and not only does he have COVID, he has been sicker than he has ever been in life, that he literally had to crawl to get to the bathroom, but he still doesn't.
Look, I don't wish anyone would miss it, but I miss that culture.
Yeah, and it's a very, 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 very big one. But something happened on Morning Joe this morning, which most of the time I also don't watch.
Oh, you're up to everything today. I feel like a slacker with you.
No, matzo ball woke me up at 6 this morning. And at 3 this morning.
At 3 this morning. Okay.
I almost killed the dog. Yeah, the dog and the cat. Don't ask. But, so the dog woke me up. And so once I'm up, and that's the end of that. And so anyway, I said, maybe I'll turn on Morning Joe. I don't watch that because he annoys me, and they both know something fierce. But there I was, and it didn't take 20 seconds, and I had to change the channel because there was Joe saying, "Why are we wearing masks? We shouldn't be wearing masks. Why is Joe Biden telling us to wear masks? The vaccine works. There's no reason once you've been inoculated that you should be wearing a mask. And what's the game?" And then you see Mika, who is terrified of him, start to say something, see the look, a side glance he gives to her, and she shuts up. And I'm screaming at the damn TV. But why wear masks?
Well, I guess he's asking a question a lot of people are related. They're around related.
I know why we wear masks. There are two reasons that right off the top of my head, which is why I still don the mask when I go out. The first reason is because it's telling other people, be careful. Let's just, each of us take care of each other in this. The vaccine is not 99.9%, foolproof. There have been many breakout cases in the country, breakthrough cases. So there's that. And there's keeping the pressure on those who don't get it. This is real.
Right.
What's wrong with doing that as a country? Got anything, or that's just me going off the wall?
No, I think that's right. I mean, I live in a high compliant. People are all wearing masks out while they're greatly distanced.
Are they? They're not here.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Which seems like, including myself, but I must say it does feel much since there's, so very little outside transmission to begin with.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get all of that, but I also get why they're keeping the pressure on. Because they're never going to reach herd immunity because of Fox and the crazy. And all of this is for naught if they don't, by the way. There's that.
Yeah, sure.
So until you can get, I think what they say, 50% of adults have been inoculated, at least with one. Yeah, and that's just not good enough. I mean, they're going to have to do better.
Enough, yeah.
Yeah. So I get that. And so I just, if you got the bully pulpit and you've got people listening to you, Joe Scarborough, hush. You can stand not wearing a mask. You could stand wearing a mask for another few months. You can. That's
right.
That's where I am. Okay, we move on. Let's see. Where do we go now? All right, let's sidebar. Let's go over here. Let's go to Matt Gaetz. So, like everything else, the media stays on a subject for about 5 seconds and then it gets bored and moves on. or gets caught up in the latest movement of the day. He seems to be so far weathering this thing. He's not been.
Yeah, I mean, there haven't been any charges,
right? But there haven't been any charges against Trump either. All of this I don't get.
Well, Trump, there were charges twice, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. But this is interesting. He gave a $5,000 strategic political consulting fee to Drake Ventures. Do you know who Drake Ventures?
That I don't know.
That is the company belonging to longtime GOP smear artist and Gaetz associate Roger Stone, also known as Don.
Well, interesting.
Yeah. By the way, Roger Stone was sued by the Department of Justice. He and his wife were saying that they owe millions in unpaid taxes. Surprise, surprise. I mean, he's screaming, he doesn't have a dime and he's trying to get money from people to help him survive, kind of thing, while he was doing January 6th. But again, here you go. I mean, he and New York, these cases are coming up and they're just going away. They're just not doing anything. The thing with Matt Gaetz, is I don't understand if this is so serious, why this guy is walking free. I just don't for this amount of time. I mean, they've been investigating I'm sorry. Go ahead. Answer.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yeah. I mean, at some point.
I don't, if there were charges like this.
Put up or shut up.
Exactly. And I don't get it.
But I assume the other guy's talking and they're trying to corroborate.
How long does it take? I don't think it should take this long. The wheels of justice roll very slowly. I get it. Okay, next up, Val Demings. Now,
yes. What about the Congress?
First of all, I think she's phenomenal. The woman's
she's impressive.
She really, really is. So now they're at the House Judiciary Committee hearing on Tuesday. I guess that was yesterday. And she and Jim Jordan, wackadoodle of all wackadoodles. See, why doesn't he have a full-time show on Fox? Get him out of Congress.
He will at some point soon. I assume at some point soon he will leave Congress and go to Fox.
I think he's going to wind up in jail.
Well,
I do.
So what happened? With her?
You don't know what happened. So they're at this thing and all, and they're talking about this. I guess for the police amendment.
Yeah, the George Floyd bill.
And she, of course, is a former police
chief, right?
In Orlando, where her husband now is police chief, I believe. And she's criticizing the amendment. And all of a sudden, of course, old Jim Jordan does one of his Jim Jordans and starts screaming like a banshee at. And who was overseeing the hearing? Jerry Nadler, who has about as much power as, as a little rodent. Nothing. And it really turned into an amazing screaming match. And she just got the better of Jim Jordan. I mean, it was really funny to watch. You're like, shut up. And then everybody got involved in the whole place. You can go find the footage on YouTube. It's hilarious in the one sense. But I have to say, what a moment that became. Claire McCaskill, former senator from Missouri, tweets calling for Demings to run for the Senate down here in Florida. And this,
right. She's been talked about.
Right. And my friends of political persuasion here in Florida, my left-wing friends, go to town on, no, governor. She could beat DeSantis. So she is the woman of the moment. Keep your eyes on her.
Well, interesting. She could win.
I think she could. At least Rubio. I think Rubio.
Possible, but
I think Rubio is in trouble.
I think Rubio is beatable for sure.
Yeah. I don't know about the other guy because he's pretty savvy and financially, Yeah. There's no bottom to his barrel, but Rubio may not want it. I don't know. He was hesitant to run last time too. We'll have to see. But down here, people are more concerned about the governorship than they are about anything, because the Democrats have just had it with the Republicans here. They passed a bill down here that went, got nationwide coverage on this business with, be careful how you protest for, just going against the First Amendment.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
I don't see that. Well, what is that? That's telling you blacks are not allowed to protest if anything happens to them down here. It was completely a racist bill. Not like that we've had these big, massive rallies or anything like that, but it was in response to Black Lives Matter and all the stuff that went on in Oregon in Washington State and stuff. And, DeSantis, remember him, Mr. Monkey Man? He plays the race card wherever he can do it. So they pass this bill. You take this to the Supreme Court. I think the Supreme Court is going to say, wait a minute, you have First Amendment rights to, whatever. Stuck in the bill, which nobody paid attention to, was something like $8 billion in tax hikes, because they're going to now start charging you for online purchases in Florida. We already have, because we have no income tax, like a 9%, tax on everything else except food. So,
right.
All of this is under the radar by this, scallywag of a human being who's called the governor of Florida. Fascinating. But my point from a political explanation of what's going on down here, Democrats really are not happy and are screaming at the National, Democratic DNC and the DSSC or whatever it's called. Why are you abandoning Florida? There are a lot of Democrats. There are more registered Democrats. What is going on? And why are you abandoning Florida? And the media giving DeSantis, all this press.
Well, Democrats be crazy to Florida. Look,
they are though.
I mean, Bill Nelson, he lost some votes.
I get it, because of bad management by the Democrats. By the way,
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, it's a much closer state than we realize.
They're putting no money here.
64% of the state votes to felons right to vote. Minimum wage passes overwhelming. There's a lot of, there's a lot of stuff for Democrats to work with down there, and they just need some good candidates and a party that's not minimal. And unfortunately, they've.
No, I'll tell you what they need down here. I'm not saying you're wrong about what you're saying, but this is what they don't have. They're not sending money into the right places or enough money. They have no organization down. Republicans own everything. Everything from the sheriff's department to it's just crazy. Find a Democrat. They're not here. They're just not here. Yeah. So the whole infrastructure of the state has been taken over the Republicans. That's hard to beat unless you have a lot of money. And remember, I told you what happened with the election, the presidential election down here. They didn't have anybody coming down. No operatives. They need a Stacey, and they could win this state, and it could change history. But, I don't know. It's worrisome. And infrastructure. You know that part of politics better than I do. What's so hard here?
Yeah, about making stuff work.
Yeah.
Fixing things.
Yeah, what's so hard?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not like the zoning or
Yeah, I don't get it. I really, really don't get it. But you can just follow the news and you see, But a lot of the reporters are leaning Republican. Politico is going, they're going right, honey. I guess that's where they think the money is. I don't know. The advertising is. All right, let's move on to Biden and Putin. I got a lot on this subject I want to talk to you about. This week, President Biden signed a new sanctions executive order that provides strengthened authorities to demonstrate the administration's resolve in responding to, and hopefully in the future deterring, the full scope of Russia's harmful foreign activities, like raiding our systems or infiltrating them. Do you know what the story is between Putin and Biden historically?
Historically?
Mm-hmm.
No. I wish I did, but
no, I'm curious. I'm curious.
I don't have a sense of the relationship between 2021. I don't really have any. There's
something. Yeah, this is me and my gut again, and I have it on my calendar to do some research on this. But there's something playing here. Going back to the whole crap with Hunter Biden in Ukraine and Biden trying to fix the election, and something personal is going on between these two.
Well, I'm sure the Hunters adds the ratchet.
Well, that was symptomatic of something that was already there. Surely he didn't think that Biden was going to be a more difficult. Everybody was surprised, including Democrats, on how effective Biden's turning out to be as a president. So I sense something very strange going on here, and something more on a personal note than on a political note, or both. Has that? That's probably or both. Same thing happened this week was, the intel report that Manafort friend Kalimnik gave Trump campaign data. We go back to that. And as far as I could see, Matt, it proved collusion once and for all. Everybody knows there was collusion. They just couldn't get to it because Trump, stopped all the investigations. But Biden has a very strange response to all of this, which is, let's clean this up now. Let's address this. This happened, particularly in light of January 6th, which we're going to talk about in a minute. In other words, they're not doing anything, even though they have facts now on their side. That concerns me. Now, why wouldn't Biden want Trump to be held accountable and his team so that this never happens again in the United States on that level? I don't understand it. At the same time, Biden calls Putin a killer. And he did finally make a statement on Alexei Navalny, who's the Russian dissident that Putin tried to kill with nerve gas, is now dying. You have anything to say on any of this? You know me, I'm throwing it all out at you. You put it back together.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Well, I don't think he's going to rush headlong in a Justice Department prosecute former President cases going forward. I think he wants to step in that again. I think he's seen all the polling interest in Russia. I know that was true when they did the second impeachment. That was true after the first impeachment. And I don't think he wants to put political capital going at his predecessor. He's happy to insult him, but he's just not going to throw the force of the justice charges against Trump that likely wouldn't. So he's not going to go there. And then in terms of dealing with Putin, look, I think we're facing this moment in Ukraine.
Yep.
I'm sure Biden has 30 years on the Senate Relations Committee, has a lot of, thoughts about how to try to keep this from happening. If it does, what it means to Eastern Europe and NATO, it's a big deal if Trump, if Putin keeps ratcheting this up militarily, which he's doing, and I think Biden knows that new presidents earlier in their term, even if they're old people, get tested by foreign leaders. Every president has the knowledge of John Kennedy's first couple of years. Pigs, school, Khrushchev, Vienna. It was a very rough couple of years that led to Russia over missile crisis in '62. And I think he's very aware that he's being tested and he doesn't want to back down, but he knows where it's going to go. So I keep your eyes on that.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, I'm talking about Putin and Hunter and Ukraine. Putin actually warned Biden of crossing a red line. That was ugly. But calling him a killer, which he is, that was ugly too. True, but ugly. Like I said, I don't know why Putin feels the need to test Biden. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, well, it's testing Biden. It's keeping Ukraine destabilized and passive.
And it's also Putin taking power and making himself, the dictator for life, and putting, look over there while I do this over here. There's that going on here too.
Yeah, it's sending a signal to all the other former Soviet republics. Don't screw with us.
It is an interesting thing, though. What happens if he does move? I mean, because you can't let him do that. You can't. So
Well, I agree. U.S. The array of options is not great.
No, it's not. But it also would be us against him, meaning us, NATO. I don't think anybody's going to put up with it. So it's more of it's a crazy threat. But he did take over some of the space.
It happened already.
I said to you, we were on the same page there. That's exactly what I was saying. So I don't know. Yeah.
I'll just sue Dayton. That should be plenty.
What a mess. Because I feel like everything's going to blow up very, very soon. I do. I do want to go back to Navalny and because this is I'm just stuck on this one. So he's been moved to a different prison. So Biden's words must have had some effect. One of the Russian people who works with Navalny said that the prison is actually no different than the other one, and there's really not medical doctors there. But the guy's still alive, so my guess is he is getting some kind of medical treatment, or they're forced to be, or something. But at least he was moved. So everybody pray for this guy, because he's a good guy, and it's just a shame. I don't know why he went back. What an idiot. I wouldn't have. Would you?
Yeah.
That's a man of huge commitment, So we're talking about Biden. I want to bring this up, and I just want to take our weekly check on the pulse of his presidency. How do you think he's doing overall?
Good. I mean,
any mistakes this week?
I mean, the inoculations are going well. He's he got that first big bill passed. He's getting those people in confirmed at a pretty good clip. He hasn't done anything too stupid. We'll see what happens with this big infrastructure. It's going to take a while to lay out. But, I'd say overall he's doing pretty well.
He did have to.
What do you think?
Well, on the border issue, he said we weren't going to let any more people in. We weren't going to open up the spigot because it's a mess down there and he's got to clean it up. But the left, of course, started biting at his heels. So he gave in a little bit and said, we'll do this by whatever. I mean, he listens wonderfully to people. Right. He's he's quick to respond, and he doesn't care whether he changes his mind or he doesn't. He just does what he feels he has to do to give, a cookie to anybody who who's barking at his heels. So good for him on that. Right. Good for that. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. He's got an interesting approach to the presidency. You really have to give him credit for yesterday. He's very in touch with the people. That's it. That's why the FDR thing really, works. The similarities. He's a positive guiding voice when this country needs a positive guiding voice. And he's everyone's grandpa.
He's doing okay. He's not
in your face.
The Republicans really have not had a good.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. They've not had a good line of attack. I mean, I'd say the most thorough critique of Biden's.
Right.
I mean, it hasn't come from anybody on the right. I mean, they're just still in with Dr. Seuss and Maxine Waters and Ilhan Omar, and they got, they're not really landing the punches.
Yeah, they don't have any ideology right now. They just have no. That's all they have, the Republicans. They don't even know what they stand for.
Not when they're for big spending checks to people. I mean, they're just for, they can't even play the old card about taxes and stuff.
No, of course not. And on infrastructure, that was their baby for so long. They couldn't get it done.
I mean, I do think sure some kind of plan coming up, Planet Earth.
Are there any?
In the Senate. I'm sorry?
Are there any?
Well, they at least some.
Yeah, they can't control the problem. They just. By the way, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Trump made an appearance on Sean Hannity, his first interview. I don't think anybody could care less. It got no press really because it was so crazy. Yeah. It was just the same old crap from him. His poll numbers, where he was up in the 99s, he's down in the 80s now. As longer this thing goes on, with Biden as president, he becomes less and less relevant, except to the idiots.
I think that's right. I mean, I don't feel like he's.
He said he was going to run for president again.
We never said that.
Yeah, he did. He said this. I thought he said this week. He's definitely 2024 is definitely on the table. And he
put on the table.
Yeah, no,
I've got a lot of them.
I think
I could run.
You too, huh? I don't know. I think he's probably enjoying, holding court at Mar-a-Lago. There was a party there. Gosh, it's so funny. Bowing.
Yeah.
I think he's enjoying that role, and I think it's a lot better than being beaten up and having his finances looked into, and he's hoping it'll all go away if he just shuts up. Maybe that's where he is right now.
It's possible.
We move on. While no one looking, Arizona House just passed a bill to purge over 100,000 voters from state's permanent early voting list, which will no longer be permanent. Here we go. It's just bouncing around the country, and it's not good. It's not good. And this is another one where the press is not staying on it. It just isn't making it an issue.
Well, they get very distracted. The Georgia thing, was kind of came and went.
Everything comes and goes. Nothing.
That's hard. I know. That's the thing. Well,
what happened here? I mean, why is that? It's just so much. No much more is happening now than back in the day.
Well, I think he's a lot of things off.
Part of me is.
The press always moves on. The cable is attention deficit disorder when it comes to news. So, things are just completely all-consuming.
I was talking to a friend the other day, and she said to me, I remember when I was a kid and I was growing up, because we were talking about our mothers, and I said my mother and I used to sit at the table, and my father, every morning, we'd all read the paper. That's how the day began when I was a kid, right?
Right.
And then we have dinner, and then after dinner, my father would get the paper and go and read the paper, the evening paper. Okay, fine. We don't do any of that anymore, and we're up news all day long, and we're all a bunch of junkies, just getting on. And I'm wondering what would happen if you stopped watching cable, stopped going online, and just got the New York Times and the Washington Post and maybe the one local paper and read them.
You would know more.
Maybe it's worth a try for a week. Just a week.
Yeah, because cable, you would miss the entertainment of seeing what the Tucker say, but you would know more.
Yeah, I just, we're like, I don't know. Do you read past the headlines? Most of the time I don't need to read past the headlines because I know what's coming. Read the headline and that tells me the story. And I go to check myself out to see, did you pick this up correctly? Yes. Because it's so simplistically written and there are no, it's not like the old days when we did A, B, C, D, E, F, G, fact. There's nothing there. I'm wondering whether that's an exercise you and I ought to try for a week and then see what we come up with. It'd be fascinating because there's nothing now. Nothing. CNN made this, what's her name? Collins, the new senior White House correspondent. And she has made mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. Really screwed up. You couldn't have done. You would have been fired the first time.
Have not followed any of that.
Follow it. Look it up. Caitlin Collins. She's. Okay. It's been bad. But I'm just saying, maybe how we're. We can't fix any of this unless we change the way we're getting our news. I'm beginning to think that. We heard from another former president this week, George W. Bush.
Yes.
Did you see any of the interviews?
I saw some of them. So
he's not aging well. He's looking ill. He's looking
a little. He's not. He's look older.
Yeah, he's frayed around the edges. He's got a new book out on my favorite subject, a collection of stories and oil paintings highlighting the inspiring journeys of American immigrants.
Yeah, a little different than Trump.
Same party. I gotta say, give it to him. He's being pretty upfront right now. I guess he's had about as much as he wants to take from this incarnation of the Republican Party, who he called, and I quote, isolationist, protectionist, and to a certain extent nativist. From a former head of the Republican Party, 8 years.
Well, look,
whoa, baby!
I think he's right. I think this. I think this helps refurbish his own reputation from things he did wrong. There are many, and I'm glad he's doing it.
He's an adorable man. He's so self-deprecating. It's just delicious to watch. And he's got that twinkle in his eye, and he's just he's a great personality. Not the brightest guy in the room, in my opinion, but I'm sorry he waited so long to speak. I really am.
Yeah, although he made it pretty clear his feelings about Trump, as did the rest of them.
Well, but that was in response to his brother getting annihilated and his whole career thrown into the whatever. But at least he's out there now, and that's something, and I'd like to see him stay out there, and I'd like to see them all. Somebody made the suggestion that he and Clinton and Obama start talking immigration together and pushing some kind of resolution to this problem together. Obviously, Trump isn't going to be there, but that they were so successful with getting the vaccination thing out there that they might try it with immigration, and I think they're right. Anything to get this one fixed and off the table so we can move forward on that. Don't you think?
Yeah, if they can agree to it, yeah, sure.
Well, the one who they probably couldn't get to agree, although I guess Obama, but Obama wasn't great on immigration either.
Well, none of them got it done, but
better on the right side of the issue.
Clinton.
Yeah,
but
we'll see. It's a problem. 2024 national primary without Trump. Pence leads at 19%, Junior 15%, DeSantis 14%, Cruz 10%, and underneath Cruz is Candace Owens at 4%, and you know where Marco Rubio is? 3%. Same as Ivanka Trump. Just thought I'd throw that out there. How fun. That was it's early. It's crazy. But it's interesting. And it was a McLaughlin. Mike Pence has a book deal with Simon & Schuster. We talked about it, I think, last week a little bit. And now all the workers at Simon & Schuster are demanding that they drop him off
the roster, and they're saying, and they are right.
Yeah.
And they are right.
Of course. Yeah. And they finally.
Yeah. Yeah. This cancel culture.
Josh Hawley.
Well, he is an idiot.
Well, he is an idiot, but, you
can't.
Idiots, you already have a good country.
Right.
The damn.
Speaking of presidents, Chris Christie is considering running for president. Big surprise.
I'm sure he thinks, I'm sure they all want Trumpy, but it's kind of, is what they're all looking at.
Sickening.
DeSantis wants.
Do you hear me?
Sickening. Wants.
Sickening.
Yeah.
I find it sickening. Can't we come up with something? Are there any states people out there? Anybody? Hello? Anybody? Last week we buried Prince Philip, and this week we lost former Carter beat Walter, 93. Tell us about Walter Mondale, because I know you have a connection. It's sweet.
Walter Mondale, a liberal senator from Minnesota, elected in the 60s, a protege of Hubert Humphrey. And when Jimmy Carter became the nominee in 1976 to unify the party, there was a lot of pressure to be liberal from the North and various people, and he chose Mondale. And Mondale kind of became the first really modern vice president in the sense that he was a partner with the president in on everything. And it's hard to imagine now because it's pretty much less,
But also, didn't you shake his hand?
I did. I was getting to the climax, the exciting point.
I'm trying to rush it because I'm watching the clock.
I was the first politician kid in the fall of 1976. Mondale was campaigning on Canal Street, which is always busy and crazy scene that day. And I was there, and I shook his hand. I remember it like it was almost so.
Sweet. That's sweet. Yeah. That's sweet. Well, from Walter Mondale in the beginning of my friend Matt's political career, we moved to Howard University. That is removing the classics from its curriculum. We don't have any 2 seconds to spend on that, but what the heck is that?
Yeah, sad.
A bad choice. Andrew Yang leading in New York City mayoral race. That's interesting.
He's been leading for a while.
Yeah, we'll see. I do want to bring this up. Marjorie Taylor Greene and America First. There's a whole debacle about this, and she says she's going to start this thing, and it's going to be Anglo-Saxon political traditions and the progeny of a European architecture. Remember architecture with Trump, by the way? You know who else was architectural freak out was Nazi Germany. That was the thing. And all coded white supremacist language, and the Republicans kind of beat her back. Or did they? They silenced her for the moment, but isn't that what this is really all about? And this is a bigger story than I think it's getting enough. It shouldn't be allowed to just flitter away. This is the under the radar of what is really percolating in that crazy House, Republican side of the House. It's dangerous stuff.
Blood and soil types.
Yeah, that just concerns me. Just out this morning, Citizens United, just 12 mega donors contributed roughly $1 in every $13 spent on political campaigns since Citizens United. You know, Matt, we can talk about everything we want to talk about, and until Citizens United is overturned, we're screwed.
Right.
Agree?
Well, it makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a good thing. And at some point, this is going to get back to the Supreme Court. The current Supreme Court, I don't know what happens because the Republicans are the ones who passed it. But maybe they're seeing maybe they'll see the light. Or Biden will pack the court, which is another issue that's on the table. We don't have time to talk about this week. The 3 things left. Tensions between Israel and the U.S. over Iran, not pretty. This is going to get it's going to get particularly difficult because of the left-wing Dems calling to stop, financial aid to Israel. Netanyahu losing control, and it looks like he's out. It looks like an Arab left-wing government is possible in Israel. Who would have thunk it? It's a mess. This whole... I don't want to see the Middle East blow up right now, do you? We got enough problems with Russia on Ukraine's border. I hope they know what they're doing with this, because I think they're playing with fire. Typical Democrat on the issue of the Middle East. You have anything to say about that?
No, I clearly capability.
They proved themselves a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
Right? So let them handle it. Let them handle it. They know what they're doing. 25% of Americans consider themselves Republicans. Only 25% these days.
Yeah, that's not a good number.
Who would have thought that? You can't tell by what's going on in Congress. It's amazing how much
the brand is not in great shape.
But they know how to stir the pot.
But the gerrymandering, voter suppression, a lot of independents are basically, it's bad. But
it should be worse. What didn't I get to talk about?
Oh, God, covered the water from a very exhaustive session. I mean, I think let's just all hope for some.
We need a weekend, America, to breathe. So, America.
Yeah. So stay healthy, everyone.
Stay healthy, everybody. Take a deep breath, kick back, forget politics, exactly. Listen to the show, and wish the Queen a happy 95th birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Cheerio, darling.
Right,
Cheerio.
Thank you for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a production of Resec LLC. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and is available at hallicasserjayne.com and on all your favorite apps. Be sure to visit us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and follow me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. Until next time, this is Halli Casser-Jayne.